Hi, I'm Wanda Correa, and I'm a member of the Greater Together Community Funds team here at the Hartford Foundation. I'm going to be talking to you today about Module 2, an introduction to the Greater Together Community Funds program. The Greater Together Community Funds program was started in November 2018. We had, over the course of 2018, held various listening tours throughout our region, where we had the opportunity to hear from town residents about things that were important to them. One of the themes that we heard consistently over each town was the interest and the desire to be able to have an opportunity to have residents come together to talk about some of the things that were going on in their communities, to be able to come up with solutions, and to be able to do it together with the other folks who lived in their towns. From that came the Greater Together Community Funds program. The goals of the Greater Together Community Funds program is to support the community in taking ownership over the needs in their town, to be able to encourage inclusive and broad civic engagement, and to anchor the Hartford Foundation in each town. Each town in our 29-town catchment region will be receiving $100,000. That $100,000 is divided into two buckets. One bucket is $50,000 and will remain an endowed fund. That means that a percentage of that amount will be available to the community in perpetuity. The other $50,000 will be available for immediate or current use. While the community funds were started as a vehicle to be able to get community members to come together, to be able to think about solutions on certain issues, and to be able to then work together to come up with what those solutions are. They were not created to be fundraising vehicles. However, we have seen various different community members who are interested in donating to the Community Funds program and have already received various donations for the Community Funds program from various towns. In order to access the community funds, we need each town to do two things. First, a town advisory committee must be established. This town advisory committee has to be made up of town residents, and it has to reflect the town residents. It cannot just be the same folks. The next thing that needs to be done is a participatory decision-making process has to be formed. This will mean that each member of that town will have an opportunity to decide where those grant dollars will be going to. So here's a little information about each advisory committee and some of the things that we know about the advisory committee moving forward. It has to be made up of town residents age 14 or over. It can be from 5 to 15 members. Those members have to reflect each town. Elected officials cannot participate in the advisory committees. There will be term limits. They have to adhere to a conflict of interest policy. There has to be a democratic and inclusive participatory decision-making process, and there has to be a representative who can work with the Hartford Foundation. So what are the roles of the advisory committee and the Hartford Foundation? Well, the advisory committee has to be able to identify community needs. It has to establish an inclusive grant-making process. We have to be able to have liaisons to work with us here at the Hartford Foundation. The committees have to keep track of the funds available for grant making, and the committees have to be able to request support from us when they need it. The Hartford Foundation actually maintains these town funds. They will assist the town residents to establish the advisory committees, to establish an inclusive grant making process. The Hartford Foundation will disperse the grants, approve the grants, monitor the funds for grant making, and provide ongoing support as needed and as necessary. So here's an opportunity to take a look at how it is that this program will get done. As you can see here from this graph, what we're showing here is that we want the town residents to own the process from the beginning all the way to the end. The Hartford Foundation established these grants. A selection committee will come up and create the advisory committees in each town. The advisory committees will then establish a grant-making process. The advisory committees will recommend the grants, and then the Hartford Foundation will be able to disperse these grants. And now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Kate Nickham, who will be able to talk to you about next steps.